Welcome to the Varietal Show. My name is Rory, and you are watching Varietal Literature's YouTube channel. How are you doing? What we do on this show is we write live. We write together. If you're here in the watching it live, you can join us in the live chat, which is already bumping. Considered one of the greatest parties in the world, to be honest. That's me being humble, to be honest. It's wild in there. And you should join it if you are watching this live. But if you're not watching this live, you have one substantial benefit, and that is you can skip over my rambling and go down into the description below, where there will be timestamps to jump you ahead to whatever section of the show interests you the most. What we're doing tonight is we are playing a game that involves writing and traveling through space, which of course is the one place not corrupted by tourism. I did that in the wrong order. You're supposed to say space after, and if you have no idea the reference I'm making, that's okay. It's like 90s point-and-click adventure references. Anyways, that's the gist of the show. I'm going to say hello to the chat, but again, if at any point you want to jump ahead, there will be time stamps down below. I see we have Witchery. Witchery, Happy New Year. Didn't see you on Tuesday, so I will get you now. Jumstore is back. Tammy, I hope you are feeling better. Looks like you are. I know you said you had pneumonia. That's a tough thing to get over. Witchery is saying next week it will be their birthday. Well, I would say happy birthday, but it's not yet, is it? All right, happy early birthday, because there's no way I'm going to remember that. Or you could remind us. You could do a whole stream about your birthday. I don't know what I would do. But, Zombie Wolf reminds us that it was my older sister's birthday on Tuesday, and it was indeed. And like every good winter birthday, her car broke down, and she was alone. So I feel terrible, and I hope she's feeling better. And apparently the entire part of my family is just having critical things break. GS is here. Good evening, GS. Thanks for watching. And yeah, sci-fi. I'm more of a fantasy, historical, mythological kind of girl, says Jumpstore. It's fine. It's all window dressing on navel-gazing art kids. That's all this is. Thematic window dressing on our own journal entries. Alright, so I'm pulling out playing cards because we need those for the game. And now I'm going to explain how the game works. This part of the show is called Lit Games. It is the show, effectively. It stands for literature games. In other words, games where we use writing as sort of our main point of interaction. And the way you interact if you're here live is you can join into the live chat. I'm going to ask some questions in a minute, and you can feel free to pitch ideas out there, and I will try to work in as many as I can, as long as they're not too shocking or anything. We mostly go for a chill vibe here, not edgy. But anyways, the game that we're playing tonight is called something, but I can't quite figure out which one of it is the title. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Okay, so the ostensible title here on it is The Adventurer by James Chipp. But if you scroll down, of equal size and prevalence is The Space Between the Stars. Now, I think The Space Between the Stars is like a DLC on The Adventurer, because on the page it makes reference to a game called The Adventurer, and it sort of supposedly builds on it. Maybe Space Between the Stars is the name of the system, you know, the way like Blades in the Dark is a specific iteration of Forged in the Dark. I don't really know. All I know is it's an interesting game. It's basically a rendition of Alone Amongst the Stars, if you've ever played that, or if you've watched me play that, which was one of my sort of solo tabletop RPG games of the year last year. As in, it didn't come out last year. It's one of the originals, but as in, it's one of my favorites that I played for the first time last year. It plays a bit differently, and it has a bit of a different feel. If you guys have ever played the game Sable, I get Sable vibes from it. Maybe not everyone will. If you haven't played Sable, Sable is sort of like if Zelda was solar punk, I guess. It's a wonderful little game. If you have PlayStation Plus, by the way, you can play it for free, which is how I did it. But it runs like garbage, which is a really, it's an indie game. And it's a shame because it's this beautiful open world, and then it just stutters down to like 5 frames a second, even though it was made for the PlayStation 4 and I was playing it on the PlayStation 5. I had to like knock down as many stats as I could. But anyways, this is neither here nor there. Let's talk about how we play the game. I will be brief because it's not very in depth in its mechanics. It's more evocative, which is actually my preference. So to play this game, you take a deck of cards, you remove the jokers, and you split it into each of its suits. So there should be a pile of just spades, a pile of just diamonds, hearts, and clubs. Witchery says, I mean, there shouldn't be 2 title-sized headings. Yes. I found that confusing. It does have one of the great intros to a tabletop RPG, though, that I've ever seen, and I do want to read it. It says, it starts with, for my wife and kids, who are awesome. This book was made with open source tools. It was created by me, a human without the need for an autocomplete masquerading as intelligence. Files were kept in sync between devices using a USB stick. Surveillance capitalists have been nowhere near it, and no rent was earned by a digital landlord. Love it. Okay. So this is an adventure journaling game of quietly slipping across the black expanse where you tell the story of a lonely traveler in a galaxy of your own creation. A deck of cards will gently guide you as you take long slide across the dark void of the sky to your next anchorage, which is just port of call, creating new worlds as you go. You just need a deck of cards and a way to write, which we're going to use Google Docs, but you can use whatever. The way they start you is to get to know your ship, and they give you a list of questions, but then you can pick 2. I've already picked 2 questions, and chat, I'm pitching them to you. So here's the 2 questions while I explain the rest of the mechanics for anybody who cares. About our ship. This is about the ship we travel in, our spaceship. And we need to answer 2 questions about it, so pitch your ideas in the chat. Number 1, you repurpose this ship from its original purpose, but what was its original purpose? Was it originally a mining ship that I've turned into basically an RV? I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. Number 2, there is a trick to getting the ship to start. What is it? And, you know, that's as open as it is intended to be. There's no wrong answers here. I'll just try to fit in which ones make the most sense to me personally. Okay, so we've already set up the deck of cards, and I'm not going to re-describe that. Once you're ready to start your adventure, you jump in your ship, which I believe is called the Sojourn, and you go what's called planet hopping. I do like this art. This art is what makes me think of Sable. Oh, Big Drew is here. Hello, Big Drew. I missed you coming back. Happy New Year to you. You are drinking apple whiskey and ginger ale. Crown Royal apple. I've seen it, never tried it. Crown Royal was a little mild for me. I liked my rye to put up more of a fight than Crown Royal did when I used to drink anyways. But it is otherwise very well regarded. Okay. I'm not going to read you all the ifs and or buts if we get to the end of the pile, but planet hopping. It is time to rise into the sky and slide across the void to another chunk of rock. You first pick the destination, then take the journey ahead. The destination and the reason are different. So for the destination, you draw from your spades cards, and for the reason, you draw from your hearts cards. And when you do that, you go to a chart like this. See how it says on one side destination spades, reason heart, and then it has the values down the middle. And on either side it gives you a prompt like a transmission, an asteroid, a binary system, an ancient superstructure, blah 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 blah. That's how you get your destination and your reason for going to it. And then along the way, you draw from the diamonds and clubs pile, which gives you stuff to do with your journey to your destination. And the journey, that is this chart here, where you can see on one side ship, diamonds, space, clubs. And, you know, maybe we run into an asteroid field and so the ship needs to do some minor repairs, or we make a game of shooting the asteroids or something like that. And that's it. The game is pretty much, you draw prompts as you travel to your destination, which means that the way you start is you take your spades and you take your reason card. And we draw one of each. So that is a 4 of spades. And a 7 of hearts. Which means our opening gambit is a 4 of spades, an ice giant, and a 7 of hearts, a memory. So we're going to the ice giant because of a memory. See when it's done. Okay. No. Don't do that. Oh my god. Sorry, Google Docs is messing with me here. It's double spacing everything, but there's not much I can do about it right now, so okay. Let's make this the norm. Okay, Regia says rye was the first thing I drank, never again. First thing I drank was vodka that somebody's mother had forgotten about. And I had a terrible experience with it as well. Maybe I just hate cards, but I'm a bit confused as to why no one would pick cards for this over a die. I mean, I think there's a few reasons. One is that cards are more generally accessible for most people because there's some peculiar dice. But actually, this game has a way that you can play this with dice. In the back half, it gives you a way to associate the prompts to numbers and use dice if you really want to. Tammy says, my daughter got me some yummy chocolates for Christmas. They were filled with Kahlua and Irish cream, so yummy. Very good. Last time I had Kahlua was Halloween, where I got trapped in a city because it was foggy and for work. And the plane couldn't take off, and I hated the city. So I just sat in my motel and drank Kahlua. I called it my trick-or-treating. This was many years ago. And Witchery says, not the trademark font. Yeah, I'm trying to get that to fix itself. I don't know what it's doing to me. Hopefully it lays off. Seems like it's fixed. Okay. So nobody has an opinion on these 2 questions, eh? Your ship. You repurposed this ship from its original purpose. What was it? And there was a trick to getting it to start. What is it? That's what our 2 starting prompts are about our spaceship that we're going to travel across space. And while we're at it, I also want to have a name and a vice for our character. So if you guys can think of anything in that regard, you can. I'm going to call our character Marla Butterjack. I have no idea why, but that's the name that came to me. Witchery says, I think Roy's chat isn't scrolling. Lol. Yeah. 2 suggestions you've missed. Have I? I'm looking. I'm looking. Oh, there's Big Drew. Okay, trick to start the ship. Everyone on board does a cartwheel in unison. I like the idea, but we're alone on this ship at the premise of the game. How do I, how can I work that in? Let me think about that. And, Witchery says, what if it's a former science ship? Why did we, I think we can do that for sure. Why do you think we came into a former science ship? Was it like willed to us by a relative? Highly processed starchy snacks. Notable trait. This isn't a part of the game, just my just a way for me to wrap a head around a character. It was cheap. Maybe people think it's haunted. Okay, that's good. Or it was dealt with in a plague and people worried that it might still have disease in it. Notable trait. Notable scar from ear to chin from Big Drew. I'll put that in descriptor. Trait I take to be like personality trait. Scar from ear to chin. We may never make use of that information either. And a notable trait. Has to be right about something in every combo. Really handy, but doesn't know how they keep fixing stuff. I like that idea too. Handy, but no explanation why. Okay. Okay. My ship caught the 7 sons of Beta 3. In a vibrant, chromatic rainbow that dug deep into my dry eyes on that warm morning. It was a bigger ship than a grunt like me could afford. But I became the benefactor of a superstitious discount. It was a science shit. Hey guys, what's a sci-fi name for some sort of plague? I think this should be a ship that served in the Black Death, and they didn't want to touch it then. A science ship or a medical ship. It served as a traveling medical bay. Constantly forget I have this song on here. It was a laboratory ship that served as a traveling medical bay. Oh, GS says Advent X. During the Advent flu, let's call it. It was a laboratory ship that served as a traveling medical bay during the Advent flu outbreak. Now it was seen as either haunted or forever contaminated. By the wriggling, unseen viruses of that plague. No one wanted it. Even though it was an A-class with 8 rooms. And the highest of high-end containment tech. Witchery says the Orion Hawks. That's cool. Nothing, a few barrels of bleach. I think it'd probably all be dead at that point. Witchery says not the wriggling. And the highest of the high-end containment tech. Which was an added layer of security. For any scrapper. Or plant collector. It was basically a mansion, all onto my lap, for the price of a C-class speeder. I'd been home on whatever nonsense plant name I gave this, Beta 3. I'd been home in Beta 3 for just a few weeks, celebrating the holidays, and I felt twice as tired as I did when I arrived. Maybe it was the salty food, the daily drinks, or just the many petty exchanges only loved ones can. Pepper so effortlessly into every day. But the result was that, is it Marla? Marla needed a vacation after her holiday with the Butterjacks. I'm pretty sure I wrote Butterjacks, not Butter Cackles. Come on. There we go. Okay. All right. Chat. Hello, Genera. Welcome to the party. How is work tonight? I think you said you work during this time. So our prompts that we got were we have to go to an ice giant, which like a planet, an ice giant icy planet basically, and the reason is for a memory. And I'll admit I'm a little stumped on that. What do you think, Chad? What is the after? I'm framing this as we've just come out from like basically Christmas holidays. We're gonna get into our spaceship because we need a vacation, but they have a memory. What memory do you think Marla Butterjack has that would prompt her to go to an ice giant? Yeah, don't worry about it, Genera. Just people were talking about their histories, and it got a little dark. That's all. As it sometimes does here. That's fine. As long as we're all respecting boundaries and stuff, that's fine. But I am a little stuck on this memory. Like, is this a place that we went with a group of our friends when we were young, and so we want to relive some of those memories? Maybe we did some like rustic, dangerous skiing on a distant planet, that kind of thing. Or Witchery says, does she need to collect a rare animal? Maybe is there a memory that she would associate to a specific animal, do you think? Ice Giant says slow down aging. Yeah. Genera says fair, not a fun topic. I'm okay. I mean, chat is this is a social gathering. People can let out what they need to let out, of course. Snow hare. Maybe she has a tradition where she, like, rather than captures it, she goes and, like, I don't know, feeds a snow hare or something like that, and it is associated to some memory. Witchery says, what if she once had a pet from an ice planet and she's been searching for it? Well, that's a cute idea. Maybe it's sort of implied that she knows that, like, she'll never find it, but she goes and takes care of some things, or I don't know. Maybe that's too bleak. Oh, if this is a song, I think it is. I really like this song. I'm going to turn it up slightly and then regret it later. Who doesn't love bunnies? I do like bunnies, but I was a guinea pig child myself. I still very much like guinea pigs. Her mind wandered to her first trips during the down seasons. It's good, like, memory music here. I'm gonna kind of write the memory and then I'll sort of re-engage with chat, because I feel like the memory's got to land and be cohesive. Academy was a decidedly practical place. Focused on skills that would serve the spread possibilities of a light speed. There wasn't much room for dreaming between classes and ship repair and long lectures on intergalactic trade laws. Oh yes, Maple, that's right. I think you brought up Maple before, Witchery. It was a fine place, and most of what she learned there, what I learned there, I switched tenses. I'm gonna have to switch that back. Yeah, I think I fixed the tense. Not the tense, the pronouns. Perspective, rather. But most of what I remember from those days is my time with the Bag-Off crew. The name itself was just a dumb pun for me and a few friends. That became inextricably woven into each other's daily doings. And if only by habit alone, thoughts, or even, I dare say, affections. Nothing really tragic said about us, nor anything quite so epic. We hadn't spoken 10 or more years. And when we last spoke, it was with warmth and hope. There was no reason or grand narrative to our drifting, other than that's what life does. It puts distance by means of circumstance between yourself and the things you thought you had forever. But that last parting was after a particularly daring trip for graduation. We went to an ice planet. Didn't even have a proper name. Did what we called punk skiing. All that really was, all that really amounted to was skiing in a place where no one charged you anything, because no one dared the dangerous slopes. The only thing that could happen did happen. We got lost in a whiteout on some unnamed slope, thin air, on an abandoned planet of ice. We may very well have died that day. But Bentham caught sight of a mother hare. You could barely distinguish her from the pale snow. But for her black eyes and pink feet, that loped into sight as she hopped. Bentham, myself, and the rest followed the snow hare, who Bentham later named Maple. small cave. Not a small cave, to a low cave. She barely seemed to mind us following her in. We spent the storm huddled away from the sharp winds, tossing seeds and crumbs to our hero. Now and then, I think of Maple, who we promised we would always return to and feed at least once a year as a thanks. This year, I guess I decided I would actually try to do it. So I started up my ship and began my journey for the ice giant. Alright, did I miss cool things? Probably. Talking about the real life Maple. Alright, so now we'll do the next part of the game, which is as you travel, you're going to pull cards. So at this time, we're going to pull clubs and diamonds, and they're going to be kind of complications as we go. And I appreciate your patience with me just kind of ignoring you and writing there. I feel like that's a hard thing to write with a crowd around. 3 of clubs. And an ace of diamonds. So close. Could have been a spade. Okay, so the 3 of clubs means as we travel, we're followed by something. And the ace of diamonds means radio contact, and that's the only thing we get. So we get followed by something in radio contact. So what do you think that is, chat? Now we're sort of getting into the game proper. Victor says, I'm stopping here because my brain is a mite tapped out thanks to a hectic week. Oh, no problem. You do what you're comfortable with doing. Somebody describe rabbits as vegan cats because they're very intelligent animals. Are cats intelligent? Or are they just cunning? I guess that's a form of intelligence. GS says bag off crew. With a question mark, basically. Did the music go up? Probably. Let me turn that down. Zombie Wolf says, I wonder if Rory ever goes back and reads the live chat when the stream ends. I usually do. I do actually have sort of background monitors. I wouldn't even really call them. Anyways, I have people that do watch the chat for me. Witchery says, what about a strange shadowy ship? Maybe at first it looked like an asteroid. And Gennaro says, my cat understands doorknobs. Doorknobs are like door handles, like those ones that you can pull, or if they actually figured out how to do like old school doorknobs. Okay, a strange shadowy ship. I'm starting this entry because I got a ping on my dish from something I took to be an asteroid. But seems to be matching my course. I'm not sure if they're trying to contact me. Follow me. Butcher says, I had a cat who could actually turn the round knob. She would jump up and grab it and try to swing it. And Gennaro says, I lock my bedroom door at night because of that. Same issue with their cat. Comical, except it unlocked if you turned it. Jump Store says, my cat's understood meow and she'll come running. Lol, I was their servant and I liked it. It wasn't Stockholm Syndrome, I swear. I mean, if you're not up for some Stockholm Syndrome, you wouldn't have a cat. I have a permanent set of scratches and scars and stuff on my legs because, and not because he's even a particularly violent cat, but just cats, they get bored and they're like, yeah, let's wrestle. And then our skin is not made for their wrestling. It doesn't have to give. Ours is a bit of a dummy. He hasn't figured out the door handle, thank God. He's an anxious boy, too. I don't think he wants to do too many new things. Or something else. Maybe it's a distress call. I'm going to feed the signal through this system log. Gennaro says we use the deadbolt. She understands it, but isn't strong enough. Do you ever catch her doing push-ups then? Jumpstore says my male cat was a bit of a dummy too. He could never figure out how Windows works. GS says, so we are supposed to figure out what's distracting us? We're supposed to figure out what this ship that's following us is. I could leave it there. We could say that this ship dips in and out and pull another prompt, or we could try to dig into this more. System log transcription, indeterminate. Indeterminate. For the talk to text, maybe. But for me, that was squealing interference. I have no idea what the deal with this ship is. I'm gonna keep my pace up since it seems a bit slower than me. And keep traveling. Okay, I'm gonna draw another prompt because I don't think we can get much out of that. For our next day, it's a 9 of clubs and a 2 of hearts. 9 of clubs is a rift. A 2 of... Oh no, this is the wrong thing. I got this wrong. Should be spades. Whatever. 9 of spades, I guess. No, that's the wrong thing too. Where the hell is my chart? There we go. Yeah, there we go. I don't know why it didn't. That looked wrong to me for a minute. 9 a rift, and then 2 minor repairs. I don't really think I can do anything minor repairs, but we'll see. What kind of rift do you think we were looking at here? Entry 3. The ship followed me all day, then dipped into the orbit of a moon. I'm gonna put some I decided to put some distance between us and maybe didn't plot the best course I could have. I tore up across the Barringer asteroid belt and clipped. I'm sorry. Nearly slammed into a few rocks. Big Drew says a rift where beings were slightly dissatisfied with one another before discovering, sure, I like that, discovering that a rift had been opened at the tail end. I was going too fast. I don't know if I just missed it in my haste or if my maps are that out of date. But I went full warp into the rift, sideways, trying to stop. And now I'm in what is colloquially known as the testy dimension, because this is the reality where everyone is a bit irritated with everyone all the time. I got lost here once. That was at least intentional, because I thought it would be funny. It's not, by the way. This is one dimension that really gets under your skin. GS says I like the term testy dimension. Witchery says illegally Steamboat Willie could be hiding in the rift. I think my favorite meme right now is channels putting up Steamboat Willie and saying, look at this thing I made. Jumpstore says Disney, bane of my existence. I think it depends on what you mean by Disney for me. Like, Disney has produced some of the most beautiful and wonderful forms of animation ever made, but as a business and a lobby group, obviously not. But I'm not sure what business that is involved in major art projects I can say I like. Zombie Wolf says, I think I might just have a dirty mind, but I did not think of it in testy in the sense of being easily irritated. Oh, I think I know that people are going to do that. I wouldn't say that's overall my point. Witchery says, Disney Corp bad, Disney artist great. Yeah. You know, there's only so good things are going to be for anyone under the system we're in. It's not, by the way, this is one dimension that really gets under your skin. I wasn't here more than 6 minutes trying. Give me something. Yeah, that's right, Big Drew. Give me something that the cops of the testy dimension are going to say, because they're going to come and be like, hey, you're not supposed to be here. What if you meet yourself and collapse our dimension? But they're going to be, they have to be like that weird passive-aggressive, irritated tone. So like, chat, give me some passive-aggressive, irritated things to say. It can't be openly aggressive, or I feel like the joke is lost. It's got to be that subtlety. I wasn't here more than 6 minutes trying to put out a fire from a stress fracture. In the rear module. When the local dimensional police Jumpstore says Prince of Egypt was the best animated movie ever and was made by DreamWorks. I watched that movie when it was in theaters. And yeah, it's a very beautiful movie. I don't know if it's the best for me, but it's definitely up there. As far as CG movies go, Shrek was ahead of its time. You know what I point out for one of the best early versions of CG integration? It's not full CG, mind you. Is Rescuers Down Under. It's just going to date me a bit, I think. When the local dimensional police hailed and said, we have strong opinions about art in chat, okay. Okay, Big Drew. Big Drew says, hey, you don't look like the type that belongs around here. Can I help you back to your ship, you dweeb? Jumpstore says, DreamWorks is the company that holds my childhood nostalgia and respect for animated films. I mean, they've definitely done good stuff, but they've also not done good stuff. Not Disney, who has a record of being lazy and greedy. Just look at their films from the 70s and 80s. They have their bad seasons, but it's impossible to discount how important Disney is to animation. It just is. As crappy as they are as a corporation, we just wouldn't have what we have without, unfortunately, their contributions. Is this not pasting? Did it freeze? Nope, didn't freeze, just sucks. Doesn't want to paste. Okay, well, I'll just have to write it out then. Boy, oh boy. You can always tell when someone who doesn't belong here comes here. Is there some special reason why you're here, dimensional intruder? Jumpstore says, so much recycled animation. Well, okay, so my partner's an animator. I'm gonna tell you right now, that's all of it. It's an enormous store of recycled animation. That's the history of animation. If that's the issue, then like DreamWorks is going down with that too. That's just unfortunately very expensive to make animation. So they reuse block cycles and they reuse assets across shows, and it's all a big hacky bin. Especially now with digital assets, that's really common. Boy, oh boy, you can always tell when somebody. Oh, I see. It was pasting white. Come on. What is going on with this thing today? There we go. Is there some special reason why you're here, Dimensional Intruder? I don't think any of us would enjoy you meeting yourself and collapsing the galaxy and everyone I know into an ontological contradiction. But, you know, that's just me and the full population of this universe. I guess your opinion on this matters too. So, what is that, sir and or ma'am? People are talking about Spirit. I never watched Spirit, either the movie or the series, I'm sorry to say. I hated the passive-aggressive way this dimension talked. The fact that everyone was irritated even before you met them. Butchery says, in all caps, "It's so good, Rory, watch the movie!" And then Tammy says, "WTF, shame on you, Rory!" I would add, like, I like all animals, but I didn't have any particular fixation on horses. So I feel like that made it less, like, it drew my attention less. I believe you folks that it's a good movie. I will say I watch a lot less movies lately because I've been trying to write more. Hey, here's my I yell at people movie, but I can't really yell at people because it's very hard to find. Have you folks ever seen the movie Brick? Witchery says, again, all caps, "It's not just about the horses!" This is probably not how you sound, Witchery. I'm just making a joke. Alright, I'm getting hammered about this. The fact that everyone was irritated even before you met them. I told them it was a mistake. The testing dimension is like my local drugstore, irritable before you even speak. Jumpstore says, "Sorry, never even heard of the movie Brick." Okay, so Brick is not an animated movie. It's a movie from Rian Johnson. It's his first movie that made any kind of a splash. It's from 2005. It was the first movie, I believe, that Joseph Gordon-Levitt did after he went away to school and was trying to shake loose of his reputation as being on Third Rock from the Sun. It is a California high school, but framed in both language and shooting style and in themes as a noir detective film, where they have weird slang and lingo about a guy who's a sort of impromptu detective who goes to high school trying to figure out a murder of somebody he knew at that high school. And it is a great film. I think one of Rian Johnson's best, although I've really enjoyed I really enjoyed Knives Out. I feel like he's just good at that kind of thing. Witcher says, "I did warn you months ago that I'm a horse girl. I don't know what you expect, but a lot of it is about Native Americans, Custer, and the expansion into the American West, including the trains. Does it involve them?" I realize this is not historically accurate, but this is what I would want from the show. Burning them all and blowing up the trains. It's got to be better than Pocahontas, though. It's got to be. At least in terms of it dealing with its own themes. But the problem is, good luck finding Brick. Like, the reason I have it is I still have a DVD that I bought when I worked in a video store and it came out. And that's fine, Witchery. Wear your heart on your sleeve. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm just, was making jokes. The train doesn't have a happy ending. That's good. It definitely isn't Big Drew. Ben Folds 5 is a band I haven't thought of in a very long time. I told them it was a mistake. They implied I would have to be pretty stupid to mistakenly fly through a dimensional rift. It was trying to be in the testy dimension, talking to irritated cops while trying to repair my ship. But eventually, I got it running and left with no love spared. Amen, Jump Store. Big Drew, yeah, sometimes I don't read things aloud, not because of any, like, judgment, but because I know that YouTube, the YouTube algorithm reads talk-to-text stuff, and there's certain things that they tell you, like, if you say, it can get your video flagged, and they'll just knock it out of the algorithm. All right. I'm gonna draw 2 more cards, but I don't think I'm gonna do much with it unless it's like something that's really inspiring to me. It's diamonds and clubs. Jack of clubs is a constellation, and the 10 of diamonds is cooking. Yeah. I can think of some things, but nothing I need to do. I've been writing for an hour and a half, so it's starting to wear down a bit. So I'll try to wrap it up. When I left the rift, I started getting the pings on my dish again a few days after I left the lift, let's say. I was near the ice giant, though, so all I could really do was try to weave through some moons and maybe lose that ominous ship before I landed. A Jump Store says, you gotta get better at your writing stamina if an hour and a half wears you out. I can write like 8 hours a day, but this is not a normal writing experience. Witchery says, it's us, hi, we're the problem, it's us. You're not a problem, I invite it. It's more creatively interesting to have you guys here, and sometimes it's just, it keeps my mind from wandering to have an audience, and your prompts can be very helpful. But yeah, obviously running a stream is, while writing is a bit more of a aware. I thought I had lost the ship, but when I landed, I was not 30 paces from my anchorage when it came burning into the atmosphere. It was an old mining ship, seemingly shed of its digging implements and repurposed. Into whatever it was now. A pirate ship? I began to plod through the thick snow back to my ship. The stalker vessel was already landing. I drew my pistol, a weak thing, mostly meant to spook creatures. Squinted against the biting wind. The ships I think we're all just quoting Spirit now. The ship's ramp dropped, and to my utter bewilderment, there hopped out a pale white rabbit, worn by great age. I was convinced I was mad. Big Drew says, I call trips to Walmart disaster piece theater. Yeah, I find that my experiences in American Walmarts were a bit more memorable, is maybe the word I'll use. But yeah, I think we all know why we're at a Walmart. And I think there is a kind of what's the word I'm looking for here? A working class bacchanal quality to the aisle organization. I was convinced I was mad, hallucinating into some hypothermic illness, but then following close behind came Bentham. I mean, he was older too. But we all were. Jump Store says, nice use of flowery writer language, Rory. I think that is the word the words I think that best suit my experience. I'm not just trying to be diplomatic. It's not, like, I think it gets this reputation. I think there's some classist stuff that goes on about it, you know, about people there and what they eat and whatever else. And I don't think that's really what stood out for me. What stood out for me was just the abandon by which people operate there, people that are otherwise reasonable. There is something about the Walmarts. You know, you feel like it doesn't respect you, and so no one respects it back, I guess. Zombie Wolf says, I hate Chevy Chase as a person, but that was a good movie. I've heard very few good things about him as a person, but man, is he funny when he was in his prime. I mean, he was older too, but we all were. His warm smile shone out from beyond his graying bangs. Yes, yes, I don't like it. Bentham? I asked. Witcher says, I don't love the photographing people shopping trend, to be honest, unless they're disturbing piece. Yeah, no, I don't particularly like the way that a lot of like YouTube and TikTok and all that kind of stuff just screws with people trying to go through their life on a regular daily basis. I'm not talking famous people or anything, people who can expect it and can pay for the walls to keep that stuff out when they want. Just regular ass people, not maybe having their best day. Like, leave them alone. Bentham, I asked? It's so like you to make me travel halfway across the known universe just to get you to answer a call. Marla, Bentham said wistfully. Following slowly behind Maple the Pale Rabbit. Yeah. Jump Store is talking about pictures of people like relieving themselves in aisles, in which he says that might say more about the state of mental health care, and I think it does too, but I think it also just speaks to there's just something grim in Walmart on a spiritual level. I had so many questions, and yet all I could think to say was, I've missed you. I'm sorry I didn't take your call. Witchery says, we don't have Walmart. I'll leave that to you folks. You must have something like a Walmart. Witchery, I mean, there's got to be discount grocery stores. Like, Canada has Walmarts, but they're not nearly the presence that they are in the States. But we have things that kind of operate like them. We used to have a couple of things like Zellers and stuff like that. But I would say probably that's kind of what Superstore has become here. Big Drew says it's the pale rabbit named... No, it's not. It's named after Witchery's rabbit. Oh, that's okay. Bentham said, stopping at the bottom of his ramp and watching me from across the snowy valley I was in. It's just good to see you again. The rabbit carried on into the snow and met me at my feet. It looked up with intelligence in its eyes. I pulled some snacks from my pocket that I knew she liked. I don't know how I knew, but being around that rabbit in that cave so long ago, you could feel she knew more and said more in some quiet corner of your thoughts. She nibbled the snacks from my hand and trotted off. When I looked back to Bentham, he was, of course, gone. I said quietly to myself, a little thank you. There we go. To Maple for keeping the memories I couldn't always hold. Then I carried on. Okay. Let's scroll back. By the way, I just noticed that I have 1,180 pages in this document. Which I know specifically bothers Witchery. Okay. Well, let's see what we made. If you're coming to this part of the show, it's because you just want to know Sorry, I read a message in the chat and made me laugh. It's because you just want to hear the story that we came up with. And this was a bit of a wandering one, although I would say that it has a beginning and an end. The middle wanders a little bit. But it was based on a game called maybe The Adventurer and maybe The Space Between the Stars. We talked a bit about this earlier. I'm not sure which one is the title or if they both are. But nonetheless, it was sort of an Alone Amongst the Stars thing where you pull cards and you get prompts about traveling through space. I called this playthrough Anywhere But Home, an adventurer playthrough, because I didn't know what it was called. This is all sort of pre-stuff. My ship caught the light of the 7 suns of Beta 3 in a vibrant chromatic rainbow that dug deep into my dry eyes on that warm morning. It was a bigger ship than a grunt like me could afford, but I became the benefactor of superstition in the form of a discount. It was a laboratory ship that served as a traveling medical bay during the Orion pox outbreaks, so now it was seen as either haunted or forever contaminated by the wriggling, unseen remnants of that plague. No one wanted it, even though it was A-class, with 8 rooms and the highest of the high-end containment tech, which was an added layer of security for any scrapper or plant collector. It was basically a mansion all onto my lap for the price of a C-class speeder. I'd been home on Beta 3 for just about a few weeks. We were celebrating the holidays, but I felt twice as tired as I did when I had arrived. Memories can do that. Although maybe it was the salty food, the daily drinks, or just the many petty exchanges only loved ones can pepper so effortlessly into every day, but the result was the same. I, Marla, needed a vacation after my holiday with my fellow Butterjacks, which is our last name. My mind wandered to my first trips out into the void during the down seasons of my last years of school. My academy was a decidedly practical place, focused on skills that would serve the spread-out communities of a lightspeed galaxy. Maybe a lightspeed species? There wasn't much room for dreaming between classes on ship repair and long lectures on intergalactic trade laws. It was a fine place to refine the mechanics involved in survival, but most of what I remember from those days is my time with the Bag-Off crew. The name itself was just a dumb pun for me and a few friends, but we all became inextricably woven into each other's daily doings, and if only by habit alone, thoughts or even, I dare say, affections. Nothing really tragic can be said about us, nor anything quite so epic. We hadn't spoken in 10 or more years, and when we last spoke, it was with warmth and hope. There was no reason or grand narrative to our drifting other than that's what life does. It puts distance by means of circumstance between yourself and the things you thought you had forever. But that last parting was after a particularly daring trip for graduation. We went to an ice planet that didn't even have a proper name, and did what we called punk skiing. All that really amounted to was skiing in a place where no one charged you anything, because no one dared the dangerous slopes. The only thing that could happen did happen. We got lost in a whiteout on some unnamed slope in thin air on an abandoned planet of ice. We may very well have died that day, but Bentham, one of my crew, caught sight of a mother hare in the deep snow. You could barely distinguish her from the pale snow but for her black eyes and pink feet that loped into sight as she hopped on past. Bentham, myself, and the rest followed the snow hare, who Bentham later named Maple, to a low cave. She barely seemed to mind us following her in, and we spent the storm huddled away from the sharp winds, tossing seeds from the... Oh, I see. That's a confusing arrangement in the sentence. From the sharp winds. But we spent our time tossing seeds and crumbs to our little hero. Now and then I think of Maple, who we promised we would always return to and feed at least once a year as a thanks. But this year, I guess I decided I would actually try to do it. So I started up my ship and began my journey for the ice giant. Entry 2. I'm starting this entry because I got a ping on my dish from something I took to be an asteroid, but it seems to be matching my course. I'm not sure if they're trying to contact me, follow me, raid me, or something else. Maybe it's a distress call. I'm gonna feed the signal through the system log. System log transcription text maybe, but for me that was squealing interference. Almost like nothing's there. I have no idea what the deal with this ship is. I'm gonna have to keep my pace up since it seems a bit slower than me, and I guess I'll just keep traveling. Entry 3. That weird ship followed me all day, then dipped into the orbit of a moon. I decided to put some distance between us and maybe didn't plot the best course I could have. I tore up across the Barriger asteroid belt and nearly slammed into a few rocks before discovering that a rift had been opened at the tail end. I was going too fast, and I don't know if I just missed it in my haste or if my maps are that out of date, but I went full warp into the rift sideways, trying to stop. Now I'm in what is colloquially known as the testy dimension, because this is the reality where everyone is a bit irritated with everyone all the time. I don't really know the metaphysics of it. I got lost here once, but that was intentional because I thought it would be funny to visit. It's not, by the way. This is one dimension that really just gets under your skin. And this was no exception. I wasn't here more than 6 minutes, trying to put out a fire from a stress fracture in the rear module so I could fly away, when the local dimensional police hailed and said, "Boy, oh boy, you can always tell when someone who doesn't belong here comes here. Is there some special reason why you're here, dimensional intruder? I don't think any of us would enjoy you meeting yourself and collapsing the galaxy and everyone I know into a ontological contradiction. But, you know, that's just me and the full population of this universe. I guess your opinion matters too, so what is that, sir and or ma'am?" I hated the passive-aggressive way this dimension talked. The fact that everyone was irritated even before you met them. I told them it was just a mistake, and they implied I would have to be pretty stupid to mistakenly fly through a dimensional rift. Which, I don't know, maybe that's true. It was trying at any rate, to be in the testy dimension talking to irritated cops while trying to repair my ship. But eventually, I got it running and left with no love spared for that miserable dimension. A few days after I left the rift, I started getting pings on my dish again. I was near the ice giant, though, so all I could really do was try to weave through some moons, maybe lose that ominous ship before I landed. I thought I'd lost it even, but when I landed, I was not 30 paces from my anchorage when it came burning into the atmosphere. It was an old mining ship, seemingly shed of its digging implements and repurposed into whatever it was now. A pirate ship, maybe? I began to plod through the thick snow back to my ship, but the stalker vessel was already landing. I drew my pistol, a weak thing, mostly meant to spook creatures, and squinted against the biting wind. The ship's ramp dropped, and to my utter bewilderment, there hopped out a pale white rabbit, worn by great age. I was convinced I was mad, hallucinating into some hypothermic illness. But then following close behind came Bentham. I mean, he was older too, but we all were, or would be. His warm smile shone out from beyond his graying bangs. "Bentham?" I asked. "It's so like you to make me travel halfway across the known universe just to get you to answer a call, Marla," Bentham said wistfully, following slowly behind Maple, the pale rabbit. I had so many questions, and yet all I could think to say was, "I've missed you. I'm sorry I didn't take your call." "Oh, that's okay now," Bentham said, stopping at the bottom of his ramp, watching me from across the snowy valley I was in. "It's just good to see you again." The rabbit carried on into the snow and met me at my feet. It looked up with intelligence in its eyes, and I pulled some snacks from my pocket that I knew she liked. I don't know how I knew that, but being around that rabbit in that cave so long ago, you can just feel she knew more and said more in some quiet corner of your thoughts. That she was more than just a rabbit. She nibbled the snacks from my hand and trotted off, and when I looked back to Bentham, he was, of course, gone. I said quietly to myself, a little thank you to Maple for keeping the memories I couldn't always hold. Then I carried on. Big Drew says, are we going to read back my half story? Big Drew, I have to pick someone up. And unfortunately, I've gone too long, and I feel very bad. But I encourage people to go back and read the story that is peppered throughout. Big Drew does his own stories. I will leave it symbolically vague as to exactly what my intention was with that story, even though it's daring to put a symbolically vague ending on a tale that was written in one draft and probably is symbolically conflicting and not very refined. Jumpstore says, a very weird, depressing story with a blowing nose. Well, I didn't aim for depressing, but I suppose we all have our own reactions. I did like the idea. Tammy says, great story as usual. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. I guess I did have this idea that Victor says it's all good, Rory. It was sort of nonsense. Well, that's all art is. It's just nonsense some people like. That maybe Maple wasn't quite a rabbit. Anyhow. Or maybe Maple wasn't even really there, in the sense that we think they are. But Witchery assures us the real Maple has a good life. Happy New Year to you folks. Thank you to everybody who came and kept me company. I'll be back on Tuesday with some sort of stories on Fireside Fairy Tales. And for back on Thursday with more of this silly nonsense. Maybe not so as Jumpstore says, depressing. You folks don't have to go home, of course, but you can't stay here. But thank you for watching, all the same. And thank you, Jumpstore, GS, Witchery, Big Drew, Tammy, Genera, and I think Fleece It Out was here at the beginning, if you're still out there. Thank you all for coming in, watching the stream, and joining in. Now get out of my shop!